I'm going to show you how to create, build, and automate a referral program so you can get leads that are cheaper and are worth more in your agency. What is a referral? A referral when someone recommends a person, product, or service to another person to help them connect them to someone or something that may benefit them. So for example, if you go to a restaurant and you have amazing food, and then as soon as you leave, you call your friends to tell them to go actually check out that restaurant, that is a referral. Referrals will allow Dropbox to grow by 3,900% in just 50 months, and PayPal used a referral system to grow to 1 million users in just 2 years. The first thing I'm going to cover in this whole referral system is why you actually need to set one up. Now, referrals are a no-brainer. You're basically bringing on leads that convert 5 times more on average, so they cost less, and they have a 16% lifetime value, which basically means they are worth more. In business terms, they have a higher LTGP and a lower CAC. If you want to know what those numbers are, just pause this and kind of go through the different examples. But data aside, this makes sense. Let's say you want to find out where to eat something. Are you going to trust Google more and the 5-star reviews that most restaurants have? Or are you going to call your friend and ask them if they know any good places in this area? Same exact thing when you want to watch a Netflix show. Yes, you might check Google to kind of see top recommendations, but if a friend recommends you and is telling you need to check out this series, it's amazing, you're much more likely to actually consume that. And from my own personal experience, guys, I train MMA, which is why sometimes in some of the different videos, you'll see different cuts and different things on my face. But I've trained at 4 different gyms in 4 different areas. And every single time I was looking for a new gym, whenever I moved, I never checked Google to see gyms near me. I literally just asked people that trained if they knew any good gyms in this area and then kind of followed on based on what they told me. This is the power of referrals. And once again, guys, Dropbox and PayPal use this to have an astounding amount of growth in a very, very short amount of time. So if you're watching to the end, I'm actually going to show you how you can build your own referral program so you can copy and paste exactly what I'm showing you today in your agency. We're going to be going over how to actually make a referral program, how to build the systems you need to actually support it, how to create 3 live automations to actually automate different aspects of a referral program, and lastly, how we can actually improve the whole thing. But before we get into all of that, I do want to quickly touch on the difference between a referral and an affiliate, because these are 2 things that are very, very similar but at the same time different. And I think it's helpful to get an understanding of which one you're actually making, because the programs do look a bit different. An affiliate is basically a paid partner who actually promotes your services for a commission, whereas a referral is a personal recommendation from your own clients. I think the easiest way to kind of explain this is a referral is more so of an outsider to an outsider, so someone that's outside of your agency referring someone who's also outside of your agency, whereas a referral is someone that's inside your agency referring to someone that's actually outside of your agency. And guys, obviously in this kind of video I'm talking specifically about clients, but referral programs for employees do also exist. So if you're at that point where you're kind of hiring a lot of people a month, then I will also consider taking the frameworks I'm using in this video and applying it to your employee referrals, because once again, you get talent for much cheaper in terms of the acquisition cost. I don't know if you run any ads, and you also get them to stay longer because their friends are there. But cool, guys, I think that's enough on why you actually need to create a referral program. I mean, it is a no-brainer. In an ideal world, all the leads you'll get are from referrals, but obviously that's not enough to sustain growth. But let's go over how to actually build a referral program. When it comes to actually building the program itself, I like to ask 4 different questions: what, when, who, and how. The first thing I want to touch on is what. So what are the benefits? Now, this is one of the most important things, because it's the what's actually going to be attracting your clients to actually provide you with referrals. And Alex Mosey has this amazing quote: referring is always a risk to the customer. They risk their goodwill with their friends in hopes of getting something more by showing them something cool, your stuff. In order for them to actually risk their reputation, you need to give them something that's actually worth it. The best way to actually do this is a 2-sided referral benefits. This basically means that the person that actually refers them and the actual referrer, so your client, both get something out of it. So a couple of examples of this could be 2 $200 gift cards. Your client gets one and the new client gets one. Another example could be different competitions, so they both get entered to a draw to win a crazy prize, or even merch, for example. The prizes itself can vary greatly, but honestly, guys, I would recommend just to keep it simple. Cash is king, so just give them some money for actually signing you up, because at the end of the day, this is not something that you can be stingy off. At the end of the day, if you didn't have these referrals, you'd have to spend X amount during your customer acquisition in different things like paid ads, closers, setters, different things like that. Referrals make your life a lot easier, so don't be kind of scared to give away cash, because you do need to create an incentive that's really good. So in this example, we're going to have a 6K offer. We're basically going to be giving away 2K as part of the referral. 1K is going to be to the client, and 1K discount is going to be for the actual person that's referring them. So as you can see, the incentives are aligned, then it's a win-win for both parties. Now that you kind of have an idea of what the benefits are for the person that's actually being referred to them, we actually need to talk about when. So this is kind of when you're actually going to ask them. There's two main reasons people don't get referrals. Firstly, your service isn't as good as you think it is. And secondly, you aren't actually asking for referrals. Now, I'm going to assume that your service is at least above average. So let me focus on the second point where you basically aren't asking for them. Think about to yourself, when's the last time you actually asked one of your clients for a referral? Exactly, that's not good enough. So the way I'd actually recommend do it is to go through your client journey and basically map out different points where you're actually going to be asking for referrals. An example of this could be right after they buy, right after they have their first small win, so let's say within part of the onboarding process, after they have their first big win, so let's say 3 months or 2 months as part of your program, or even after 30 days. You basically want to map out which points within your client journey that you're actually going to be asking them for a referral. And don't be scared to ask again, guys. Realistically, you're going to have to ask them multiple times. Obviously, you don't want to seem like you're begging for referrals, but at the same time, if their incentives are aligned for them, you're more so kind of presenting them with the opportunity that they can make an extra $1,000, for example. If someone was to keep reminding me of that, I would not be upset at all. The way I would actually recommend to do it, which is one of the things I'm going to be talking about at the end of the video, is introducing an email campaign. So it's basically similar to a marketing campaign when you want to nurture leads. Let's say a 90-day or 180-day campaign where every couple of weeks and whatnot, you basically send them an email to kind of nurture them on the referral program, show different success stories. I mean, literally the exact same thing that you guys would do for a marketing campaign, to nurture a lead. You want to do the exact same thing, but for your referral program, to show people the benefits that introducing people to your business can actually bring to them. Once you figure out what you're actually giving them and when you're actually be asking them for that, you need to figure out who. So who will actually be referring the leads. Now, the way I see it, there's two main options to actually do this. The first option is basically your customer success team or your sales guys basically hop on a call with the specific client and they basically get the referrals live on that call and then go ahead and call them and close them. The second option is you basically just give some sort of form to your clients and just let them do it in their own time so they can go ahead and actually just SMS the leads by themselves or their friends or whatever, and then they basically send it over to you and then you can call them after. Both of them work, guys. I mean, I'm sure there's different ways to do it as well. In terms of the system that I actually showed you back in the introduction, you'll be able to use both of these methods with that system because it is quite functional and adaptable. But one thing I'd recommend in this stage is kind of just have an idea of who will actually be doing the job of actually referring the leads. But once again, if that's confusing, we'll touch more on that in a second. And the last thing is how. So how will the referrals actually get tracked? Now, this is actually when we move on straight to the building phase side of things. We're going to be building an Airtable database and 3 different automations to actually maintain this referral system and connect to different things like your CRM. So you might as well get straight into it, guys. So the first thing we actually want to do is actually build this. So we've gone over why you actually need referrals and how to actually set up a referral program. So now I don't want to waste any time. I actually want to get started in building a system. So, but one thing I will say quickly, guys, is that what I'm about to show you today is a very, very simple build. Like I said, at the end, I'm actually going to be giving you different pointers on how you can actually improve it. But I really want to emphasize that this is just the beginning. The aim here is just to give you a system that you can just straight away copy and paste into your agency, which is why I'm not making it too advanced. But like I said, at the end, when I'm finished, I'm going to show you ways you can actually improve this to actually take it to the next level. So the actual build is going to be broken down into 3 different parts. First, we're going to be building the Airtable database. Then we're going to go ahead and building a form. And then we're going to be going ahead and actually building the dashboard. This is all going to start with an Airtable. Now, we're going to be using Airtable in this video because most people have it. It's free and it's very, very easy to create an account and kind of duplicate this straight into your account. In reality, if I was doing this properly, my team would actually use NoLocal, which is basically a no-code app builder. In my opinion, this is much better than something like Airtable. And if you've watched my channel before, you would have seen those hour-long plus videos going over how to build different things. However, in this case, we're going to be sticking to Airtable. And within Airtable, we're going to be building a database that's made up of 3 different tables: the referrals table, the clients table, and the rewards table. So you might as well go into Airtable and just begin building this out. So within my Airtable account, I'm just going to go ahead and start from scratch. And I'm basically just going to create a new table. I'm going to be calling this Referral 2.0. And this is going to be made up of 3 different tables. So I'm just going to go ahead 3 tables. The first table is going to be the referrals tables, which is basically going to be able to track all the different referrals that we actually have. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this. The second table is going to be the clients table. So this is going to be our existing clients that are actually part of our referral program. And the last one is going to be the rewards table. So we can actually track and make sure everyone's getting the relevant reward according to specifically what they actually need. I'm going to go ahead and actually zoom in, guys, just to make your life a bit easier and make sure you can actually see this properly. Let's go ahead and refresh this. So let's go ahead and actually begin building this out. So the first thing we're actually going to do is go to a referral table and basically set up the different database. Now, if you don't know, a database is made up of three different things. We have database tables, which is basically what we're looking at here. Basically, a table to store different information. We have a database record, which is the individual collection of information. And then we have a database field, which is the individual piece of information. So for example, in this example, when we're doing referrals, the referral will be the table, one actual referral. So for example, Jerry, my friend, would be a record. And then something like the name of the referral will be the actual field. Let's go ahead and set this up. So the first thing I'm going to do is change this over to referral name, so we have a clear idea of what's going on. I am going to save that as a single line text. The notes I am also going to leave, but I'm just going to once again go ahead and rename this to referral notes. I'm going to go ahead and delete the assignee field because we don't need that, at least for now. We'll come back to it in a second. Now let's go ahead and add different things. So the status, I'm going to actually rename this to referral status and add the relevant stages. And once again, guys, I want to give you a complete breakthrough in how we actually do this. So if you like seeing the complete breakdowns on different things like this, make sure to let me know in the comments. But for the referral status, I'm going to have a couple of different statuses you actually want to track. So I'll go ahead and modify this. I'm going to have it as a lead, contacted, qualified, converted, lost, and that's pretty much it. I always like to keep converted as green. So I'm just going to go ahead and change this to blue. And I like to put lost as red because obviously very, very bad if we lost it. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. That's the referral status side of things done. Now we also want to add a bunch of more information. So we might as well get started with the actual referral ID. This is how we're going to be able to track it. So I'm going to enter referral ID. And then for the actual field type, I'm going to scroll all the way down to auto number and just leave it as that. So that's going to go automatically generate. Next thing I need is the referral date, just so we know when it was actually referred. And then for this is going to be a date field. And I don't need to include the time, but I will default this to current date when they actually were created. Then for the actual referral notes I already have, I'm going to add a referral value so we actually know how much it's worth. This is going to be coming in handy when we actually set up the time board or the dashboard, sorry. And if I scroll all the way down to currency, I can say it as dollars, whatever. Then we want to collect some actual information about the referral, more specifically the referral email, which we scroll down is going to be an email, and also the referral number, which I think there is a number field right there. Perfect. And lastly, I actually want to add a couple more fields. So if I scroll down, I want to add the last modified time. Great. And I'm also going to add the last modified field. Sorry, I'm also going to add the created time. Now, these are going to come in very, very handy when it comes to automation, but you'll get more on that in a second. Now, this is basically the referral table done. There is one field we're missing, but I'm going to come back to that in a second when we actually build the client's table first. So I'm going to switch over to the second table, which is now the client's table. And now we're going to basically do the exact same thing, but rather than referrals, here we'll basically be tracking our clients who are actually helping us and bringing us different leads. So here we are. Once again, let's go ahead and rename this to client name. Perfect. And then I'm also going to add a client ID similar to the thing that I did last time. So going over here and then scroll all the way down to auto number and then go ahead and pressing create. Then we want to add different things. Notes, I'm going to go ahead and delete. It's not really necessary. I am also going to go ahead and delete the assignee if it's going to respond. Airtable is buggy sometimes, guys. Let's go ahead and reload the page. All right. And then one of the very, very important fields we're going to need here is the actual email. Now, this is basically what will allow us to basically assign different referrals to this client. Once again, when we actually begin building automations, we get a much better idea of why we actually need to track this. I'm also going to add two main fields. Now, this is where it gets slightly more complicated, but bear with me. It's going to make a lot more sense. If I scroll down, I'm going to put linked on of a record. So basically create a link field. I'm going to go to referrals and I'm going to go ahead and press create. Now, this is basically going to allow us to basically assign different referrals to this client. So for example, here, we don't have any right now, but I can go ahead and touch this and assign that specific referral to this client. And if I go to referrals and scroll all the way to the end, you'll see we also have that linked on this side. Now, this is going to be very, very key because it'll be allowed to track different progress of the clients. But once again, we'll touch more on that in a second. And the last thing I want to do is create a roll-up field. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and firstly name it the referral value. I'm going to scroll all the way down to roll-up. And then for the actual field is going to be the referral value. And it's going to be sum. Perfect. So this is basically going to sum up how much our clients are actually worth. Now, a key thing here, I don't want to show every single referral. So I'm going to go ahead and put this. And then for the conditions, I'm going to put referral status is and then converted. So now it's going to only show us the actual value of the different referrals which have been converted for that specific lead. Cool. So that's the referral table done. Let's do lastly touch up the rewards table. This is basically where we'll be covering the different types of rewards that our clients can actually get. Now, in this case, I'm going to show you a different couple of rewards you can actually add here, but in reality, in most cases, you only have one type of reward. So like I said earlier, in that 6K offer, you can have 1K for the client and 1K for as a discount for the actual referral. But I'm still going to show you an example of how to track different things. So this one, I'm just going to rename to the reward ID. And then once again, if I scroll it all the way down, there's going to be an auto number. Then I'm going to go ahead and actually link the client, but this, which once again is going to be a linked field. So I'm going to put linked another record, client, create field, and it should show us that client name. Move that all the way to the front over here. The notes I am going to leave, but key things I need to add, I'm going to delete this for now. The status, I'm going to go ahead and add the specific stages. So it's going to be issued, or it's going to be pending, sorry, issued and redeemed. Go ahead and delete that. And then the last thing I want to add is the reward type, which is once again going to be a single option select. And here I'm going to add different options. I can do different things like credit, direct transfer, discount, event ticket, giveaway entry, one session. You get the idea, right? And once again, realistically, you'd have one type of reward, but I'm just going to give you the option. And the last thing, sorry, I need to add here before I forget is the actual referral or the reward value. So if I scroll all the way down to currency, and I'm going to go ahead and rename this to reward value, so we can basically have an idea within our dashboard of how much we're actually spending. So this is our tables, guys. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly import some data so you can actually get an idea of what it actually looks like. In order to do that, I already have some data preloaded, and I'm just going to go over to do that. I'm just going to go over to this add little button here and then scroll down to data and just import as CSV file. I'm just going to go ahead and do that for all the different tables. You'll see what I mean in a second. All right, guys. So as you can see, we've now gone ahead and actually imported some example data, and now things will make a bit more sense, right? So for example, if I wanted to assign some referrals to Alice Johnson, and go ahead and press here, and then let me choose some actual people. It will load up all the different referrals that we have in a separate table, so which in this case is all of these different referrals that we just imported, and I can go ahead and actually add them and assign them to Alice Johnson. Press on this, and then for example, if I wanted to assign Sophie Martin, and that's automatically linked because Sophie Martin's actually being closed. We'll just double check that. Sophie Martin, yeah, converted. But for example, where the change as to contacted, then you can see that referral value is now 0 because obviously we set up that filter. This is obviously just an example, and like I said, guys, this is a very, very simple database. This is nothing complicated at all, but it's a good starting position that you can use and obviously build up yourself and leverage it, customize it to your own specific needs because that'll be a lot more valuable. And a little bit of a shameless plug here, but if you want access to this specific resource and every single resource from our YouTube videos along with our scale-proof roadmap, which is basically a step-by-step guide on how you can actually set up scale-proof systems in your agency, all you have to do is check out the first link in the description and join our free community. Within there, you'll find all the different resources from this video, which will include the actual database, the example data, the automation templates, and obviously the mind map that I've actually been using. So if you want to check that out, use the first link in the description. It's 100% free. But for now, we actually need to move on to the second part of the video, which is actually creating the form. Now, in this example, I'm going to be building a form, and I have to emphasize this is just an example. We're basically going to be building one form for everyone to actually use. But as soon as I'm finished, I'm going to show you how to actually improve that. So the referral form is very, very simple, guys. All we're doing is collecting 4 different pieces of information: the client email, the lead's email, the lead's number, and the lead's name. Once again, in using this form and the different automations we're going to set up, you're going to be able to use this, whether it's your customer success managers or your sales guys adding the referrals themselves, or your client just adding the referrals and actually sending them to you through using a form. The end goal here is just to make it as easy as possible for either the customer success manager or the clients to add and actually manage the referrals. And this is kind of what we're putting together using this form. So this is the form now I'm actually going to be building. Now, once again, guys, I do have to emphasize, this is just an example. Obviously, I wouldn't send this to a client. You have to spice this up a bit more. And also in this example, I'm using Google Forms, but you can use something a bit better, like Typeform, for example, Tally. There's so many different options out there just to clean this up a bit more. But in this example, once again, my client can use this and my actual team could use this potentially. All you have to do is enter the email of the different referrals, the actual referral number, the referral name, press send, and call it a day. Very, very simple. Obviously, you'd have to spice it up, add different branding, but it's the form I'm actually using in this example. And the last thing we actually want to do is actually create a dashboard. Now, this is a completely optional step, but I find it a bit hard to visualize data because over time, this database is just going to be getting bigger and bigger. So it's going to be much harder to kind of track different things. So in this example, we're going to be building some sort of dashboard to kind of put these numbers together and give us a rough idea of what we can actually track. Now, we are using Airtable, so this is not going to be super interactive, but what we're basically doing is kind of combining the information from the 3 tables into different charts so we can get a rough idea idea of how our referral program is actually doing it without having to go through the different database, add different things. So yeah, it's going to be very, very quick. Once again, nothing complicated, but enough to give us information we need to basically get started. So in order to actually do that, we're going to go back to our Airtable account and we're going to go over to the interfaces section. Now, there's a couple of numbers I actually want to stop actually using. So we're going to go press building and we're going to go ahead and actually build an interface. I'll name this the referral tracker. Why not? We're going to go ahead and press next. And for this, I'm just going to leave it as blank because I'm used to starting this from scratch. Once again, guys, nothing complicated, but we have this simple interface builder. I'm just going to be adding different charts or numbers in this case. So this, I'm going to put one here. And this one can be the actual referral value. So if I scroll down, I can choose referrals. And for the actual summary of what I want to show, I can go field summary. And then I can put the actual referral value. And then for the summary, it's going to be... Let's see if we can actually have it as sum. Perfect. So this is the amount of kind of referrals I actually have in my system. Maybe I can include a filter here. So I can go with specific records. I can have a filter so that the referral status is not lost because there's no point tracking the lost ones. So we'll go ahead and rename this. This will be our referral value. I'm going to save that. And for some reason, there you go. I can move it all to the side. Now I'm going to do a similar thing, but rather than having the referral value, I can put the close referral value. So for that, I'm going to go specific records, and rather than is not lost, I'm going to change that to is and then converted. So this is basically how much we actually converted using referrals, which I think is quite a useful statistic. And I'm going to go ahead and rename this to converted referral value. And then we'll add a different number to actually show us the amount of cost we've actually spent on the referral program, because this will give us a clear indication of the ROI we're actually getting. So for this, I'm going to change this to the rewards table. And for the actual field, this time rather than the reward ID, is going to be the reward value, and it's going to be a sum again. In this case, it doesn't seem like we actually made any rewards, but if I go ahead and change this, so if I go back to my data and I go to rewards and just go over here and add some random numbers, 4,000, let's name that's way too high of a number. Let's say 500, and we name this, change this to 100 or 190. If we go back to interfaces now, we just see we actually have that data, and that basically shows us how much you actually spent in terms of how much we're going to see if we're getting an ROI on this program. I'm going to change this to rewards costs. And now I'll kind of add different information such as number of referrals, but I'm just going to leave it as this. The main thing I want to do now is add different charts just to visualize the data. So I'm going to add the element, scroll down to charts, and I'll add a nice one here. This one can be a pie chart, and let's say, yeah, we can see the amount of leads we actually have in the referral progress. So I'll just move this to the side once again, and we'll make it a bit smaller. It doesn't have to take up the whole space. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add this exact same thing on the other side, but then rather than it being a pie chart, I can go ahead and move this over here, hopefully just like that. And I'm going to change it to a bar chart. Why not? And here I can basically put the different types of rewards we're actually given just by going over to rewards, and it'll hopefully automatically just show us the different rewards. Not yet. So I'm going to change this to status or reward type, sorry. And there you go. Now we can basically see the different types of rewards we're given. So once again, guys, this is a very, very simple interface. Can I hide this? I guess not. But this is a very, very simple interface. It's nothing complicated, but at least it gives us an idea of if we're getting an ROI on our return. So cool, guys. So we built out the actual systems, I guess, for the actual rewards program. Now it's time to actually go over and actually build the different automations. Now, the reason I kind of prefer to use automations is because this is separate to your CRM. So in order to actually keep it accountable and actually make sure all the data is up to date, it's important that we actually utilize different automation to make sure everything's updated automatically, because as you know, that's basically the only way to ensure that data is actually up to date. So in this example, we're going to be building up 3 different automations. And once again, the end goal here is just to make it as simple as possible for your customer success managers or your clients to firstly add different referrals, but most importantly, actually manage the referrals and the different rewards associated to it. In this example, we're going to be using Make.com as our no-code automation platform. You could use App if you wanted to. Honestly, guys, you get much more value if you kind of focus on the frameworks of what I'm talking about rather than the specifics of the different software or different things like that. So if you are using Zapier, you can still use the exact same things I'm talking about today and just copy the frameworks of how I'm actually setting these up. But for this example, we're going to be Make.com. We're going to be building up 3 different automations, and the first automation we're going to be building is actually creating that client reference. So this is going to be a very, very simple automation. It's going to be triggered from a button within our CRM in the local. Then we're going to go ahead and actually create that client in our Airtable referral database, and then we're basically going to go ahead and add them to a campaign. So let's move over to Make.com and actually create this automation. So within my Make.com account, I'm going to go ahead and press create new scenario, and this is going to take us to a blank page where we're basically going to start off. The first thing I'm actually going to do is rename this to referral system automation #1, and this is where the magic starts. Now, in this case, the trigger for me is going to be an update in my CRM. And I'll actually show you what that guys looks like. So if I go over to my CRM, you can see I created this button, which basically says ask for a referral. If I click it, it gives me confirmation, or you want to ask for a referral. This will initiate automate to actually add the clients to our tracking system. I'm going to go ahead and press confirm, and then I'll run automation in the backend, which is basically going to go ahead and send a webhook. Now, where is it actually sending a webhook? Well, it's sending a webhook to this webhook that I actually created earlier. So I'm going to search for webhook. It's going to be a custom webhook. And then for the hook, I'm going to use this one, which hopefully is the same one I used earlier. You can always double check just by adding it in and going over to the workflows. And then for the referral trigger, double check the name is the same. UCR. No, it's not that one. It's not that one either. And it's not that one either. Cool. So we can go ahead and just create a new one. Go ahead and press save. And we can copy this and go back to my local platform and paste this and just press done. Cool. So now if we actually press OK and we run this automation, nothing's loading. But if you go back to our platform and we go back to our projects and we actually press this button again, let's say for project 10 and go ahead and press confirm, that automation should automatically run. And as you can see, we have that data there. Now, this is I would say is an example of a bit more complicated trigger. If you are using low code, there's different types of triggers you can actually use for this specific step. So for example, you could trigger this 30 days after they join. You can trigger this from a form completion. There's so many different options you can do. Don't feel like you're restricted to kind of having a more complicated side of things where we're setting a button. So now we actually tested our trigger and make sure it's working properly. We're going to add another module. And this case is going to be no loco. I'm going to scroll down to actually search record. And what we're doing here is just searching for the project, because even though we have some information here, we don't have all the information we actually need to actually add the client. So for the collection, I'm going to go over to project. And then for the ID, I'm going to enter the ID we got from the previous step. So 50 in this example. I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And if I actually run this whole thing with the ID 15 in this example, so I'll run this module and I'll put 15, we should get much more information. And if you open this up, you can see something very cool. The contact, edges, and here you can see all the information about the different contacts, such as the name and the email, which is realistically the most important parts. So now that we have that, we can actually update the Airtable database. So I'm just going to go over to Airtable. I'm going to go to create a new record. And within here, for the base, I'm going to choose the referral base. And within this, I basically want to actually add a new connection, and I'm going to actually sign in. And I don't know if you can see it, but a pop-up will show up, basically ask me to authorize the base. And I'm just going to go connect that new base we just created a second ago. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to add a base. And for this example, I'm going to scroll down until I see that referral 2.0. And I'm also going to add the old one just to make sure all my previous automations actually work. So I'll go ahead and grant access. So what that loads, now we're actually able to see that base. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this from referral to referral 2.0 just by choosing this. And then for the actual table we care about in this example is the actual clients table, because all we're doing here is basically creating or adding a client to our referral table so we can track them in the future. So for clients, you can see all the information is pulled up here. And this is basically going to add all the relevant information. So the client name, which I'll get from that search we did in the second step, just by going over to the contacts, node, open that all the way up and adding the client name. The status of this, not relevant to add. And the email, which is probably the most important part, is going to be once again taken straight from my CRM. In this example, we're not adding any referrals, any rewards, because that's going to come in the later stages. So I'm going to go ahead and press OK, and this is basically done. So now if I just quickly open up our CRM to give an idea what this looks like, and I go with the data, at the moment, there's no information about this specific lead. However, if I go over to my project management tool, let me actually launch the automation first. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this. So it's going to load. It's going to be waiting for information to actually load. And I go ahead and ask for a referral on my project management tool. You'll see the automation will automatically trigger, add the information to Airtable after the search on the record. And if you go back to Airtable and we reload this, we should see that lead being added in just like that. And as you can see, the actual name is automatically added in, as well as the actual email, which for some reason we have two email tabs. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this one. Perfect, guys. I'm so happy about this. I think we made already a lot of good progress. Now let's move over to the second automation. Now for this second automation, so what we basically want to do is trigger this when the clients or the customer success manager actually completes the form with the referrals. Once again, you can either send this form to your clients and let them do it individually, or have the customer success managers fill it out on the form. Want to send an update to the client to let them know the form's actually been completed and actually received the referrals. And then we want to do some technical stuff. Now the reason for the technical stuff is within the form, I want to be able to the client to upload one referral or multiple referrals, which once again we'll get into in a second. And then we're going to go ahead and actually update the database to actually create a new lead in a referral table. and actually update your referral table. And then optionally, you could add different things such as adding lead in a CRM. But for now, we're just going to leave it and keep it very, very simple. So let's go back to Make.com and actually begin working this automation. So within Make.com, I'm going to go ahead and save the scenario. And let's go ahead and copy and paste this to make my life a bit easier when we actually rename it. And I'm going to go back to scenarios and just create another new scenario. Now, as always, I always like to rename this to keep it nice and organized. So I'm going to change this to automation 2 with my referral system. And now we can actually get to work. So the first thing we actually need to do is set up the trigger. Now, like we said, this is going to be triggered from the Google form completion. So for the app, I'm going to go ahead and search for Google Forms. And for the actual trigger, I'm going to scroll all the way down until I see watch responses. Now, this is basically going to trigger whenever a form is actually being completed. But the thing with Make.com is that it doesn't trigger instantaneously. It more so kind of checks different responses within regular intervals. So all I have to do here is enter my form ID, which in this example is right here. Once again, you should get that from a URL. So if you want to go to your form, you want to get the ID, it's just this long code right here. And I'll leave the limit to 2. But once again, with Make.com, it kind of checks the responses on a regular basis. So in this example, I'm going to go ahead and press all, right? And we should see some data being processed. But if I go to this thing right here, you can see I basically set up right now that it checks for it every 15 minutes. So if you expect to get more than 2 responses in 15 minutes, you can go ahead and change this to 10, 20. I mean, depends on how much volume you actually get. In this example, I'm just going to leave it as 5. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and actually run this module, and you'll see I'll get some information. As you can see, the 3 different forms have actually been created, and we're going to be using this information, specifically the answers here, to actually add this information to our Airtable database. Now, in this example, as you can see, we have very important things. We have the referral number, we have the client email, if I open it up, and then we have the referral name and the actual referral email. Now, like I said to you earlier, I want to make it so that this kind of automation can process information if it's singular or multiple. So the way I'm actually going to do that is basically creating different bundles within the automation. But once again, this is nothing complicated. Let's move on to the first step, which is actually finding our actual client within our Airtable database. So I'm going to go over to Airtable. I'm going to go for search for records. In this example, the base is going to be referral 2.0. So I'm going to go ahead and reload this. Let's go ahead and change the connection to this one, maybe. Yeah, referral 2.0. And then for the actual table, this time is going to be the client's table. Now, Airtable is a bit annoying when it comes to searching different things. You basically need to set up a different formula, but don't worry, this is nothing complicated. For the output fields, choose all, and then all you want to do is basically enter this very, very simple formula with these kind of squiggly little brackets. And for the actual email we're searching for, I'm going to open up the client email, open up again to text answers, open up again the answers, and enter that value, and just close the brackets. This is basically going to mean it's going to search for records that basically have the email that's the same as the email that's been submitted on the actual form. So I'm going to go press OK. And if I go ahead and test this with the email within our CRM, so in this example, I can use this one right here, Leave Out Fluxomate. I'll go ahead and run this module. And then for the answers, I'll put Leave Out Fluxomate, and you'll see we'll get an output of the different information about that specific email. This is very important. The most important thing we need is a client ID and the record ID, because this is how we're actually going to be able to link the different automation to the specific client. Cool. Now, this is where things get slightly more complicated, but once again, nothing simple. All we're going to do is set up a tool to actually set the different variables. Now, the reason we're doing this is because if a client submits different emails, they're going to be separated by the little comma. So we basically want to separate different emails into their own individual chunks. Once again, this will make a lot more sense in a second. So I'm going to open up this little tools function right here, and I'm going to go all the way down to that see set multiple variables. I'm going to add it to my flow. Now, all we're doing here is basically splitting the information we get in the forms into different individual chunks. So for this, I'm going to name the first one emails. I'm going to go over to the function side of things, or the text ones, and I'm going to enter split. And here I'm going to enter the actual information we get from the emails on the forms. I'm going to go over to referral emails, open up text answers, open up answers again, and enter the value. And then the split function is going to be comma and then space. Now, I will say, if you're having your team do this, you have to tell them to format it the right way. And the exact same thing for clients, you need to tell them to actually format it the right way. But I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this for all the different variables we have. So the emails is one of them. But then if I go over here, the actual phone numbers will be another one. So for that, I'm going to delete it. I'm going to go back to my functions from the thing. I'm going to enter the referral number, open up text answers again, open up answers, enter the value, and just rename this to numbers. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing for the actual names. So the easiest thing just to copy and paste this guy so I don't have to repeat the whole thing again. I'm just going to delete this value so it's not the number, and then go back to the actual names, open up text answers, open up answers, and then enter that value right there. Okay, perfect. So we've gone ahead and actually set all the different variables. Now we actually need to use the iterator to basically allow us to process them as individual bundles. So in order to actually do that, I'm going to go over to add another module, and for the flow, it's going to be flow control and an iterator. And we're basically going to enter that array, which is basically just a collection of data for only one of them. And now this will make a lot more sense in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and add emails, press OK, and then I'm going to go ahead and allow us to create different records in the Airtable database. Now, the reason this actually works is because an iterator basically going to run it for every single set of information that we have. In this example, let's say we submit 2 emails, it's going to run this last part of automation twice. The reason we only have to do it for one of them is because it's automatically going to divide the emails depending on that little comma, but we just need that function to basically reproduce the process rather than stop at the first one, which is why the iterator is actually there. Once again, guys, this is a bit more complicated, but it's nothing complicated in reality. I've kind of given you a step-by-step guide on how you can actually set this up. And once again, the first thing in the description, all the automation templates and everything is already there for you. So if you want to check that out, you can. But for this, we need to do the last step, which is actually create a record, which is basically where we're going to be creating our referrals. So for the base, it's going to be 2.0 again. And if I scroll down to the actual table, this time is going to be the referrals table. And here is basically where I want to enter the different information about the leads. And the way to actually do that is rather than entering just the emails, just by entering this, I want to do something a bit different because I want to add the relevant bundle. So I'm going to go over to the text function again, and I should see the get, maybe it's over here. Yeah, the get function. And here I basically want to enter, if we go back to the array of the different emails, or the names, sorry, in this case, but I don't want to get every single name. I only want to get the name of the specific kind of set for the lead. So for that, I'm going to enter the bundle order position. Now, the way it basically works, if it's the first one, then it'll be 1. If it's the second one, it'll be 2. If it's the third one, it'll be 3, and so on and so forth. And what we're basically doing here is just getting that specific bundle or the name from that specific email that's actually relevant. Once again, guys, I want to run the automation. I think this will make a lot more sense for you guys. I'm going to leave the referral nodes as empty. The referral status I'm actually going to set. So I'm going to not map this and have this as lead. The referral date is going to be set as now. So if we go with the date functions, I can just put now. The referral value we're going to leave, and the referral email, once again, we're going to use the same kind of procedure. So I'm going to go over to the functions, enter get. And then here, I'm going to just enter the actual email, and then just once again, enter the actual bundle order position. And the exact same thing for the order number. Go to the functions, enter get, go over to the actual numbers, and then add that bundle order position. Perfect. The last thing, which is probably one of the most important things, is we need to make sure we're actually linking it back to the client. So for the client, I'm going to open this up. And then for the record ID, I need to enter that ID that we actually found in the previous step. I'm going to go ahead and press OK. So now I just want to make sure this is actually working properly. So as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and actually submit a new form. So I'm going to go over here and let's get an actual copy of the form so I can actually fill it out. We have this basically running in the background, and I'm just going to go and enter this email. So Leo at Fluxomate.com. I'm going to enter some random email. So test email 2@gmail.com, test email 3@gmail.com. I'll leave it as that. I'm going to enter the referral number. So plus blah, 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 plus blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to enter a couple of random names. So test name #1, and then test name #2. And I'm going to go ahead and actually submit this. And now if I go back to my automation and I actually choose the start time from now on and actually run it, we should get that data automatically imported. We don't. So I'm going to change this to specific date. And then for that, I'm just going to set today, but an hour ago. And I'll go ahead and run it. Now it should automatically process that information, search for the record, and then go ahead and update within Airtable. And as you can see, we have that 2 little button, which means it's updated 2 records. If you go back to our referral database now, you can see perfectly it's already been linked to the referrals. But most importantly, if we go to the referrals table and we scroll all the way down, you can see that leads that have actually been brought in just now, which are automatically linked to my client with the relevant emails and relevant numbers. Guys, very, very happy about this. I mean, another step you could add here is just kind of sending an update to the client, which we can do. Why not? So I'll go back to my automation. I'm going to add another module, and this time it's going to be Gmail. But the key thing here, actually, I don't want to do it at this stage because then it's going to send 2 different emails. I just want to send one. So if I go over to Gmail again, and I open this up, and if I go down to send an email, I can go ahead and move this here and just auto align it. And here I can basically send a different update to the actual client just by going over to 2. Add an email address from the actual Airtable record. So just like that. The subject can be thanks, and then the content, you can add different information. So just thanking them for different referrals and saying that we'll send them an update as soon as we get an update on the actual referrals. When you're sending emails within code or within automation, this is not code, but I always recommend sending them through HTML. It just make the formats a lot cleaner. But I'm not going to focus too much on that right now. I've got a bunch of different videos going over that exact topic. For now, let's actually move on to the third automation, which is basically where we're going to be awarding the clients when the referral has actually been closed. So let's go ahead and actually save this. I'm going to save anyway, and let's move over to the third automation. Now, the third automation is very simple. It's going to trigger when we have an update in our Airtable database to actually mark the lead as closed. We're going to go ahead and send another update to a client through email, and then we're going to, most importantly, update the database to basically create a reward for that email. And optionally, you could also add a different task to basically have your customer success manager make sure the rewards actually been fulfilled. So let's go back to make.com and actually create this third and final automation, guys. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and copy this, go back to my scenarios tab, save the changes, and we're going to go ahead and create a new module. So I'm going to create a new scenario. Let's go ahead and actually rename this to automation #3, the last automation of this whole system. So all we're doing here is triggering this from our update in our actual Airtable database. So for that, the first trigger is going to be Airtable, and it's going to be watch records. So what we'll be doing here is basically seeing if there's an update on any of the records. So for the base, it's going to be Referral 2.0. Let me just go ahead and change the connection to this one. Sorry. Now we go to 2.0. For the table is going to be the referrals table, because that's the one we're actually be watching. And this is basically where it gets interesting. So the trigger field in this example is going to be last modified, because it's going to be an update. In no scenario are they going to be created, because the leads or the referrals are already going to be there. We're just simply updating them. For the actual label fields, the one we actually care about is the referral status. I'm going to leave the limit as 10. I'm going to set the view as that. And this is where it gets interesting. We actually want to make sure that we're tracking the right field. So here is basically where we're going to enter this specific formula. And all I'm going to do is change this from referral status to status. And all you want to do is make sure that this matches the actual field name and this matches the specific actual status. So if I go just double check in my Airtable database, you can see the actual referral status is referral status. So there you go. This wouldn't have worked. So I'll go back and actually change this to referral status and just double check it is converted. It is converted. Cool. So if I go ahead and press OK and I choose all, this is now going to pull up all the different leads that actually have been marked as converted if I run it, which in this case it didn't. Let's see, are there none that are actually converted, or have I just set it up wrong? Let's see, there seems to be none that have actually been converted. However, I believe it's because, there you go, none of them actually have an updated tag. So let's go ahead and actually change this a bit. So we actually have some updated tags and just do it particularly for the ones that are actually converted. There you go. So if I run this again now, we should have two at least. There you go. Perfect. Cool. So this is basically going to trigger whenever there's actually records. Now, once again, similar to what we did last time, you need to set kind of different intervals to actually check it. And according to the intervals, you need to set up the different limits. In this example, I'm not going to have any limits. I'll just leave it as that. Now that we basically watch the records, now we basically want to search for the client using information. More importantly, the actual referral ID. So for this, let me just make it full screen. I'm going to add another module and I'm going to go over to Airtable and then search records. Now, in this example, we're searching for records in the actual clients table rather than referral table. So once again, we're going to choose the base referral 2.0. And then for the table, I'm going to go down to client, sorry. And then here, this is when I'm going to select all of these outputs. And then for the formula, I'm going to do a similar thing. But this example, I'm looking for that specific record ID. So I'm going to go with the record ID. And then for the actual ID, I need to enter this information from the clients. I'm going to open up the clients and add that little one. That will basically be our ID. In this case, I've noticed we don't have any raw information there. So just to double check, I'm going to go ahead and just change one of these that actually have an assigned client. So one of these ones, for example, and I'm going to move it to converted and just run the first step again. So we actually have some data to kind of play around with. Perfect. So as you can see here, the clients is the first one, the actual ID. So if I go back here and I go set this up again, I guess 2.0, set up the clients table. And then for the formula, I want to select all the outputs. And then for the formula, scroll all the way down until we see the record ID. And then here we're going to choose the clients. And that client ID, perfect. Let's just delete this and just rename this so it actually works properly. So now, if I just copy this client ID just to give you an example of what we're actually going to be searching, when this specific module runs, it's going to be searching for that client so we can actually get that information of the different ID, which as you can see, we get right here. Now, the reason we're actually doing this is because now we can actually create a reward for that client. So I'm going to go back to Airtable. I'm going to go ahead and actually create a reward. And the base, once again, is going to be Referral 2.0. But the actual table this time is going to be the rewards table. Just like that. Here's where you can add different information from the status of the reward type, different things like that. The most important thing is the actual clients. You can actually link it. So for the record ID, I'm going to enter the ID from the second step, which is right there. And here I can add different information. For example, the status will be pending. The reward type will be, let's say, direct transfer. And the reward value, we can put 400. Now, in this case, it's not a dynamic value. You could set up different kind of branches depending on the referral kind of status. But once again, that's a bit more complicated, so we can leave it as that. For now, let's just make sure this actually works properly. So let's go ahead and actually update this record. We're going to send it to converted. And what we should basically see is it automatically running. So let's go ahead and run this once. See, nothing. If I could choose where to start, and I put from a specific date, and I literally put 1 minute ago. Let's see if this works. Run this. Now it's going to search the record and actually create those different rewards. So if we go back to my Airtable database, and we go over to rewards, we should see 2 new ones that are automatically linked to Rachel Wright. They're pending and they actually have that value over here. And if we go over to clients, you can see it's automatically been linked to Rachel Wright. Just by that, you can see there's 2 different rewards there. Cool, guys. So those are 3 very simple automations you can actually use to automate aspects of your reward or your referral program. Once again, the aim of this is just to give you a system you can just copy and paste. Obviously, you would have to add different things to this, but I hope this kind of gives you the initial piece that you need to basically get started on your referral journey. The aim of this whole thing was just allow you to copy and paste the different Airtable and the Make.com automations so you can actually have referral systems. But now that I'm finished doing that, I can actually show you how to actually improve this. Now, I'm not going to be covering these exact things in the YouTube video. I'm going to be showing you how to build them. The main thing I want to do is basically get you thinking of different ways you can actually use to improve your referral program. And I think there's 7 main things you can actually add here. The first thing is automated rewards. Now, in this example, we are going to award a reward to them using an actual database, but we're not automatically sending them a reward. We're not automatically giving them a reward. That's something I would 100% integrate just to kind of speed up the process. What I would basically do is have some sort of banking integration that basically automatically discounts the referral or different things like that. Obviously, it depends on the different rewards you're actually giving out. But rather than sending them an email and letting them know that, okay, we're going to do this soon, I would make sure to add an automation to basically automatically send them the reward as well, just avoiding delays. The second thing I would do is use NoLoco. Now, in this example, like I said at the start, I was using Airtable, but if I was building this properly for a client, I would not use Airtable just because I think Airtable is somewhat limited. Even in different automations you had to set up, you saw we had to set up automation to link it to the CRM. What I'd basically do is just have this within my NoLoco, so it's automatically linked to my CRM, and I think that will kind of decrease the complexity of different things. As well as NoLoco, it's a much more kind of functional tool. It's much more interactive, and you can have much better things or interfaces that you can actually use for your reward progress. The third thing I will do is actually integrate this within my client portal. In my previous video, I recorded basically a tutorial on how to actually set up a client portal. I would actually add this referral program to my client portal and basically allow my client to track the different referrals they've actually made, how much money they've collected, the different types of rewards they got, and also allow them an easier way to basically give us referrals rather than having them to complete a form. Now, the only reason I say this is because I think it's a lot more functional, and you can also add different aspects of gamification if you kind of give them a dashboard, the different rankings they have, different things like that. I think that'll be a complete killer idea. Just integrate that within the client portal, so it's very easy for them to track the different rewards, track different referrals, and make sure everything's kind of kept up to date to make sure you're not kind of squeezing them for the referrals. The fourth thing I will do is actually work your leads. Now, this is kind of self-explanatory, but when it comes to referrals, you do need to work them a bit differently than normal leads. You have to remember, these leads are going to be worth more, and they're leads that are basically interactive with a specific client. So when you actually get any referral, you should call them, but call them in a different way. You basically want to mention the fact that their friend or whoever referred them has seen good results of you and that they referred them, and mention any sort of key factor you're able to get from the friend. This is very important, guys. You also don't want to disrespect the friends of your customers, because anything you do bad to them is going to reflect on the customer and they'll be highly likely to turn away. So when you're actually getting your salespeople to actually call these referral leads, let them know that the mindset they're going in is a bit different and be less confrontational, I'd say, and more so of a problem-solving aspect to make sure you can actually help the lead, which in all honesty you should be doing anyways, not just for referrals. The fifth thing I would do is add the image for the referral. So what works amazingly, and I actually got this from Alex Hormozi himself, but if you take a screenshot of you and the actual client on a call and then send out the referral, they're actually much more likely to reply to you. So if you haven't had a struggle with pickup rates, basically get a picture of you and the actual friend in a Zoom call and basically send it to them to let them know that this is legit and their friend actually wants to help them out. I would also put someone in charge of the referral program. Now, this is a similar concept to KPIs. If you don't have someone in charge to make sure everything's going smoothly, then the likelihood that everything's going to be updated, all automation is going to be working, and you're actually going to be getting real results from this is going to be much lower. So you want to put someone in charge of the referral program who can basically look over different leads, make sure everything is working as it should, and most importantly, make sure that you're actually getting ROI here. Because if you're not, then you have to make some changes in the rewards, in the actual system, or just different incentives they actually create for your clients. And the last improvement, guys, is create a custom form. Now, once again, this doesn't matter if you kind of integrating this within a local in your client portal, but if you are going to use forms, I'd recommend creating a custom form for every single one of your clients, especially if you're having your clients fill out the form, because it's just going to add that personal touch. I would definitely not recommend using a Google form that I actually used. That was just an example to kind of get the automation working, but you do need to touch it up. Obviously, add your branding, different things like that to make it as kind of legit as possible for your client and actually make it something that they want to complete it. So I'd constantly remind them about why they're actually doing it within the form, maybe even allow them to choose choose a different reward that they want to get and store that on file just to make it a bit more personalized and kind of link it back to why they're actually doing this whole thing in the first place. But guys, that's a quick rundown on how I would actually improve this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on which one of these you're most likely to integrate. But apart from that, guys, that's pretty much it from me. If you've liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe. We've basically gone through how to set up a referral system from scratch in your agency. Like I said, all the different automation templates, the database templates, the different example data, and the mind map of what I used today can be found using the first link in the description by accessing our free community, going over to the classroom, and there you'll find every single one of the resources from our YouTube, including the one you're watching now. But within that community, you're also going to find different agency owners who are looking to set up skill-proof systems and a step-by-step guide on how we actually set up skill-proof systems for our clients in the skill-proof roadmap. We're giving all of that away for 100% free. It literally costs you nothing. So if you want to join that and any of that sounded interesting, all you have to do is check out the first link in the description and get access to our free community, which in there, you also have access to myself. So if you have any questions about anything I talked about today, feel free to actually use that. And lastly, guys, don't finish your learning here. We have so many different videos going over, not specifically referrals, but different ways you can actually decrease churn. So I recommend you check out this different video where I go over 9 ways you can actually decrease the churn in your agency. If anything I talked about today sounds interesting, then trust me, you're not going to want to miss out on this video and all the different knowledge we actually have on our channel. So don't stop your learning here. Keep going, because there's so much you can actually do to improve the efficiency within your agency so you can actually take on more clients at scale without ruining your client's experience. If you do actually end up building different things I showed in the system, make sure to leave any questions in the comments or within the community, because I'm here to actually support you guys. I say this a lot, but we're quite a small channel. So if you drop a comment or drop a video suggestion, for example, we're 100% going to see it and actually give you an in-depth response. So don't be shy, guys. That's it from me today. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.